Welcome to Season 2 of Ventures Visionaries, Episode 7, Your Journey to Creating a National Brand. This podcast is about vision and entrepreneurship, namely business and innovation. I'm your host, Mordy Hackel. Welcome to the show. Our guest today is Hagan Kappler, CEO and founder of Daisy. Daisy's mission is to enhance the human experience through smart spaces. Welcome, Hagan.
Thank you so much, Mordy. Great to be here.
I'm so excited to chat a little bit about your journey in business and how we get to Daisy and what Daisy is doing, because there's some really exciting things happening there.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you so much.
So your background was varied, and before I give your CV, maybe it's better that you just give us a little bit of a background on, where you came from, and we'll talk about Daisy as a standalone company in a minute. But
Sure.
how did you get into the world of business, and what spurred the ideas that allowed you to start thinking about creating national brands in general?
Sure. Happy to walk you through that. I grew up in New Jersey, went to Williams College on the East Coast for college, and then joined Goldman Sachs, where I was on the investment banking division in equity capital markets. I went to business school at Virginia and then went to McKinsey for a few years to dive a little deeper into company problems and opportunities, which was terrific. I was out here on the West Coast. Starbucks recruited me, and I helped them launch Blonde Roast, which was a new product
I
for
love
them.
that.
Oh, good.
My go-to coffee.
A coffee that tastes good. What a great
There you go.
innovation. It was a pretty big change management project, though, because so many people, including the founder, had this kind of conviction that dark roasted coffee was the best way to have your coffee. And it turned out we were leaving out 40% of consumers who were drinking, high-end coffee, and loved Starbucks, but felt, like they couldn't stand the taste of the coffee. And so I think to your question on how did, we come up with this national brand and Daisy, I think two things are important about that experience and the influence for me. I mean, one was the idea of a national brand and the power of that, there's a lot of passion for the brand. Everyone that I met had some story about, their coffee being too cold the day prior or, some idea that they had. And I felt like the company really listened to their consumers. And then the second was that the company first cared about the frontline employees and offered them equity. They offered them access to higher education. They offered perks like a free, pound of coffee every week. And so at Daisy, that's something that we've instilled from the beginning. We have options for our all of our owned employees that we hand out on the first day that we own the company. We offer free benefits for our employees and their families. So we really want to make sure that the front line has the training, the care, the compensation that they need to help clients. And if you don't have that, you kind of in services and in experience kind of based companies, you don't really have anything to share with people. I was recruited to go back to the East Coast for a role with United Technologies. I joined the M&A team. So from coffee beans to jet engines, go figure. But I quickly remembered why I didn't like being in the Northeast. Aside from my family and friends being there, we endured a couple of winters and then was recruited to go to Ingersoll Rand in Charlotte. And I helped start the strategy function there. It was there that I met Deanne Pearson, who's now my business partner and the co-founder of Daisy. So it turned out to be a life-changing experience to get to go and work with Deanne. We own Train HVAC, so another well-known national brand. We also own Club Car. And so we were looking at digitizing how to, extract value out of connecting homes, connecting buildings, connecting factories. So I think that experience, in addition to working with Dion, who is very creative, he's a visionary. And so the idea of sort of, breaking out of norms and kind of coming up with new ideas and bold thinking, those have all really influenced me. And so I'm really lucky to have been able to now work with him at a few different companies, including the next one, which was Service Master. And that's where I had exposure to home services. So Service Master owned Terminix. Dion was overseeing their transformation, and I was running the Mary Maids brand and Service Master Clean. And we ended up selling all of those brands to a large private equity firm for a really, healthy multiple. So, started to see the value of national brands again, and then also this need that people had in home services. It's a really large space. It's growing rapidly. People more and more need more help around the home. I can personally relate. I've got 4 children and, my husband and I work full time. So, those ongoing services really, can help you out.
Uh,
I then ran another roll up in the home services space that was also private equity backed. And that's when Deanna and I kind of looked at each other and said, why isn't there a home service in the technology space? I'm taking this call from home. It's pretty important that I have everything working properly. As soon as I say that, then on these types of things, my internet will go out. So
God, I hope
I'll
not.
have to,
That would be bad.
now that I have a Daisy team helping me out, the risks are the stakes are really high. But no, so much of our kind of convenience and the luxuries and the needs at home rely on technology. And I have a cleaning lady who comes by. I've got a yard guy. I've got a pest control guy, and we always say like, where's the tech guy? So Dion and I said, probably it's just because there is no national brand. It's a $30 billion market, highly fragmented. And so we set out to build that national brand through acquisition and through franchising. And just to be clear, what we do is install HVAC. We install, I wish we did HVAC. We install videos, we install TVs, speakers, security cameras. We do lighting and shades, and then the control systems that tie it all together. But these businesses do a great job doing that today. They aren't necessarily, experts in HR or finance. So we're able to help those companies and those business owners and managers with those resources so that they can get back to doing what they love. We've also rolled out an ongoing service program. So now we can offer, that tech guy. And we see a lot of benefits from a national brand. So anyway, so that was my background and how we got here. A lot of relevant experience, seeing an opportunity, and then just kind of personal need.
right.
Like I needed somebody to help me out, and now I've got that.
That's amazing. Ventures and Visionaries is grateful to be sponsored by KJ Technology. For over 25 years, KJ has helped middle market businesses unlock growth through strategic technology advisory services. Whether you're a fast moving alternative financial firm or a boutique wealth management office, KJ delivers tailored managed IT solutions that scale with your ambitions. And for those who only demand the best at home, KJ brings enterprise grade network technology to high end residential environments, blending performance, security, and vendor management from the boardroom to the living room. KJ Technology is redefining what it means to be connected, protected, and empowered. Learn more at kjtechnology.com or email for information at info@kjtechnology.com. How does it impact like a business owner when you're trying to take a company that was maybe small and quote unquote intimate, and now it has, multiple partners, and like what does that dynamic look like for somebody? Maybe they've been working for 20 years, built up their baby, and now they become part of Daisy. I would imagine that is a significant transition.
That's right. I can't underestimate that transition. We do try to keep what made that business great alive. And if anything, we're trying to help that intimacy in terms of customer relations, strengthen, because we do see a huge value in this kind of local model of, you call up and the person or the person knows you in your home. And we would just want to strengthen that. And so um, from the owner's perspective, though, it is, we've heard over and over again, this is the first time I've had a boss, and I don't, when we're always like, well, we work for you, but it's just a different dynamic. I think though the idea is that we're there to help and offer resources and offer lifelines. And so, yeah, there is a little bit of an adjustment switching over to new, payroll or switching over to new finance systems. But the idea is that after a few months, there should be a little bit of a relief, a little bit of a release. For a lot of the owners of our businesses, what we've done is we have try to allow a path for them to not be as involved in the day to day of the business so that we can attract talent into the business to help on the day to day. Our tools, our resources, our teams can help provide some of that, bandwidth. And what we've seen actually is even the owners that were like ready to, sail off to Mexico when we acquired the business, just frankly tired out from running these things. 100% of owners have stuck around. They're excited about what we're trying to build here. They've, taken on a new role within Daisy that they're passionate about to help kind of with this next generation of owners coming through. So that's been, I think, really flattering. And the fact that we've got that talent, that knowledge in our system really helps the owners that come in because one, there's credibility. Two, everyone's seen something different. Everyone sort of ran their business a little differently. And so, there's value in those numbers, in addition to kind of the functional resources that we add.
What do you think makes these owners find this second wind, somewhere mid-career or maybe even third of career?
It's not like these owners and teams have thought, oh, I don't want to offer more service to customers. Everyone has wanted that. Everyone knows that that's the gap. It's just a question of how to make that work operationally, how to not burn out your teams, how to not have a truck, driving around a neighborhood and not getting really well paid for that. So it's about having that service as an example accentuate the business and accelerate the growth and further help the customer, not to mention the technicians, because techs love, I think, solving problems. And this enables them to have kind of, rather than a 3-month project, $250,000 installation, they're working on a $2,000 project that they get to have kind of instant gratification around. So it's a win-win. So it's something like that, like this dream of being able to fulfill ongoing services in this industry. That's one. Two, I mean, there's just tremendous value. So just like the financial potential here is unlike anything I've ever seen before. You think about the ongoing service value of like a home cleaner visit, $200 maybe every other week. Here we're seeing upwards of anywhere from $2,000 to $90,000. So these are really incredible numbers that we're seeing in our initial pilots. So ton of potential in this space if we can get it right. And so since everyone's invested in the business and their teams all are invested in the business, I think there's kind of this mutual like it's fun to be on a winning team. It's fun to be challenged. It's nice to be supported and around people. It's also nice to get a break. They probably haven't had a break for a while, so they take a little bit of a week off, go to Europe with their wife, and then they're hiking around and thinking about new ideas. And so they come back rejuvenated. I think all of us can kind of relate to that.
100%. What kind of lessons, perhaps, this is not you mentioned at the beginning on the onset that this is not the first kind of roll up, for lack of a better term, that you've done. So what kinds of lessons have you taken from some of the home other services that you've done and brought to Daisy?
I think the first is to listen to the needs of folks before we started to build things. Well, I guess number one lesson is every dollar that we raised, and we raised venture capital to fund the initial build out, half of that has gone towards these acquisitions and half has gone toward building support for the businesses. So I think that's number one. This wasn't a space where we were looking to pull together some companies, slap a new brand on it and then flip it to someone else. And we knew that this would take time. So the second, I think, is the fact that we chose venture capital instead of other forms of capital like private equity or debt. Venture capital and our partners who we chose to work with are patient and they are flexible. And so they knew we had a very strong experience and conviction about the idea, but they knew that this was a space that hadn't been invested in, and there had frankly hadn't been very many or any successful roll-ups. And then third was just like I started to say at the beginning, listening to these owners. We traveled around the country, met with hundreds of different companies, and heard some of their challenges and issues, things like, accounting challenges, things like hiring and recruiting. Technology here, ironically, is really tough. They're kind of Frankensteining how to build an end-to-end system, no CRM that supports this industry. And that's different from like an HVAC or something where there are tools out there that the average, small business owner can tap into. These guys don't have something like that. So the lesson learned was let's listen and build based on the needs, and also pilot things. So we're not going to necessarily get it right out of the gate. And so having that kind of humility, using inside experience, outside experience, working together to build those things, those are the lessons that we took from our other roll-up experiences.
How would you say Daisy distinguishes itself from, other maybe competitors in the space like Geek Squad or things like that?
Sure. I think one is the this kind, like I said, the team that we have is really spectacular. So, in fact, we do have folks who came from Geek Squad, so a lot of respect for Best Buy and what they do there. The problem, I guess, with Geek Squad is that it's part of Best Buy, and the way we see it is it's almost like an afterthought for the company. They come out, they install stuff, and then they leave. Our idea is this is all we do,
Mm.
is install and be around for the ongoing care for customers. And the idea here is that one, stuff breaks and stuff is overwhelming. An average remote control looks like mission control for, a spaceship or something like that in my mind. And second is, I don't think customers are as aware, the average customer, in about what's happening in technology and in the home and what's possible. And so, for example, I didn't know how motorized shades could really help and like change my life. I didn't know how setting scenes could really simplify things. So whether I'm having people over or whether, the kids just, I want them to kind of calm down and sit down for a nice meal, I can just literally push a button. And there's a lot of convenience there. It feels luxurious kind of in the day-to-day life. So I think that kind of high-end care and listening to customers and staying on top of what's going on in their lives, that's a real differentiator from a Best Buy. Other roll-ups in the space are private equity backed. That I think causes some challenges just in terms of the shorter time span of those holds. And back to your earlier question, we had experience with private equity, so we knew what the advantages and disadvantages were. We just didn't think that worked here as well. So, and then I mentioned talent, having guys that are from the industry and have grown up in these businesses, and then people from outside the industry, whether they're M&A or whether they're franchising or whether they're the home technology, home services space, having that mix is we found to be really fun. Number one, and number two, is I think a game changer. We challenge each other. We make our ideas better, and we work really hard to have an impact.
It's amazing. It's wonderful. It's nice to be able to find these solutions and bring them into a place where they actually help people. Um,
Right.
I was going to ask you a little bit, and you've mentioned, being a mom, and you've mentioned, the kinds of impacts that the technology has, as a mom, as a end user, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Um, can you speak a little bit about how the the market may be slightly underserved a little bit from your perspective?
In many ways. So one, I mean, we really are only serving a very small segment of the population. We're talking in terms of the full extent of our installation services technology. That's top 1% of the population. And Dion and I didn't start the company to just help people put speakers around their putting greens. We have bigger kind of ambitions here. So that's just one, just in terms of affordability. These are expensive to install. They're typically expensive to maintain. You have to have some sort of, experience or having been to a friend's house to sort of have seen this. So there's not a lot of knowledge about what's possible here. In fact, we drive around neighborhoods in our trucks and do these service calls, and we've had neighbors come running outside being like, where have you been all my life? They know they need this service, but there's no, what do you put in the search bar, in
Right.
Google? What do you, actually, a lot of people are finding us through ChatGPT now because we do a lot of, these types of conversations to kind of spread the word. But, and then if you do know what you're looking for, and you do know that this industry is typically called custom integration, which I didn't even know about until 2 years ago, then how do you find somebody who will answer your call? The integrators and dealers in this space are overwhelmed with customer demand. So surely there are more customers here, even within the segment that we're currently serving. And then, yeah, if you think about, top 5%, top 10% and beyond, um, even if you set the DIY guys aside, because there are a lot of folks who love to tinker and
Right.
set these things up themselves, we see tremendous potential. The second is the gender kind of issue. So we started the company with a hypothesis that and it was proved pretty much when we were traveling around the country and we saw man caves like across America. So this idea that the really cool two-channel speakers, the giant screen for a football game. And look, I love football as well. I'm not saying women don't like football. I'm just saying there are other ways that technology can add to the design of your home through lighting and accentuate kind of daily life that, another person who's helping to run a home might see things a little differently. And when you leave out half of the population there, then you're missing a lot of opportunities. So, having a team with, men and women at the leadership levels, like having a woman CEO, I think that helps us to listen to that consumer. We name the company Daisy as a pretty obvious, feminine, more feminine name to lean into that idea. We're recruiting and having an apprentice program to get more women into the business so that we have women on the front lines kind of noticing some maybe subtleties in a woman consumer versus a man consumer that might get missed. So yeah, we think that could be a huge opportunity as well. And it transcends over into, we work with a lot of custom build. In fact, we mostly work with custom builders at the outset and interior designers. And for the women interior designers, what I was finding is that it was like the tech guy and the interior designer were kind of talking past each other. And she didn't understand why, that the lighting could be tunable and that the color could accentuate how the art could look in a home. And then the installer wasn't understanding how she couldn't get that, and how this cool app was, something that the customer needed. And so, just having a little bit more, awareness there, I think is really helpful. But yeah, you hit it spot on that there's tons of people who, yeah, don't even know that this category exists.
Fascinating. I think that's amazing. Let's stay on the gender side just a smidge, because I think we spoke. You spoke about your kids, and I'm a father of two daughters, and my two daughters are slowly entering the workforce. And I'm curious. I'm curious what your thoughts are about young people in general, but young women in particular entering the workforce, and how they should approach it's probably a very different workforce than it was, say, 4 or 5 years ago. And how do they find their mentors and find their footing and identify opportunities as young people and young women in particular?
I think you hit the nail on the head with the mentor point, finding mentors, men and women who believe in you more than you believe in yourself. That was very important to me throughout my career. I think aligning yourself with companies and brands where you'll learn something and be, proud to work there and inspired. For me, that was important. So getting to work at places like, Goldman Sachs and McKinsey and being surrounded by really talented people and feeling what that feeling that experience of working with in such talented teams where you pushed yourselves and pushed each other and made your ideas better. Those types of experiences I would really encourage people out of college, especially liberal arts colleges, to go out and experience. I went to business school. I think that women ought to look at that as an option. Fortunately or unfortunately, I mean, I just think that that way you can expand your network and allows you just to make sure that you have kind of a full foundation of what you need to be thinking about. I constantly go back to, learnings around management communication and learnings around negotiation that, I experienced in business school. But also, I would just say that, in terms of our investors and Daisy, my biggest supporters were Darden friends. And we've had Darden people come and work for the company and be interested in starting franchises. So, yeah, I think that network is important. And then I think the other one is when you aren't getting the support you need, when you don't have a great mentor, when you feel like you're kind of bored and flatlining, I really think that there's always like this trade-off of, especially if you have kids, well, it's good lifestyle, there's more predictability, but I don't know. I just think for me, I wanted my kids to see me be excited about what I was doing. I wanted them to see me be passionate. If I was happy at work, I'd be happy when I came home at the end of the day. And granted, that means I work a lot and travel a lot and work hard. But, I think that makes me a better mom because when I'm with them, I'm really engaged and really happy to be with them. Um, and I'm not kind of thinking about what if or what I could have done if I didn't have that. So I think, yeah, just staying into what you're excited about. It's not to say as women, there still are many challenges in a very male dominated, regardless of the industry. There's with men mostly at the top of organizations and making decisions from an investment standpoint. Um, but if you have experiences, especially experiences that where you felt uncomfortable, where you maybe didn't know exactly everything when you took on a role, or you changed careers or changed companies to, make sure that you got that feeling of, excitement and passion, then when you're at a place like, later in your career and wanting to start a company, again, I'm speaking from personal
Yeah.
experience, you have kind of that comfort with the uncomfortable. Um, and you don't know anything else. So it makes you a little bit bolder to do something as silly as starting a whole new company.
That's very funny.
Unadvised.
That's very funny. And I think that to borrow your phrase, you definitely hit the nail on that. I think being comfortable, being uncomfortable is a skill that, I don't know, maybe I'm spoiled, but as a child, I thought that, our parents kind of left us alone and we figured things out and we experimented
Right.
and did things. And today, certainly my kids were much more parented than I was.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I'd imagine that that continues on. And I wonder to what degree the freedom to be uncomfortable, the freedom to try things new. Look, obviously, I would not advise anybody to do the kinds of things that I did when I was a child. That's bad news. And if there were
Yeah.
phones and recording, God, whoa, that's bad. But
That's right.
um, so young women coming into the workforce today, find a mentor and learn a lot. Learn to be uncomfortable because that's where
Yeah,
the growth is. And
I think so.
that's lovely.
And I think it's different for everyone. So I always feel strange kind of handing out advice because for me, I needed those 25 years of experience to be in this kind of a role. But there's plenty of, but I do believe that a startup and being your own boss, so to speak, aside from your investors and your co-founder maybe, but that there's like freedom in that. And but I needed to have all of the experiences that got me here. But there's tons of men and women who right out of college have brilliant billion-dollar ideas, and who am I to say not to chase those? It's just for my personality, this was the right path. I will say having kids for me was really challenging. I mean, and it remains challenging because just having a baby, you get out of the workforce, you get back into the workforce, that takes away, years off of your career, from men who don't have to do that. And then now that my kids are older, once I thought I had it all figured out, now I've got two teenagers. And so making sure I'm around for them in a different way is now I've got to figure it all out again. The games are during the weeks and their problems are internal, and I've got to kind of, see what's happening, but don't get too close because then I'll embarrass them and stuff. So that is, that's been an interest. So one, you never figure it out, but there's kind of ups and downs, managing a family, and I'm sure that's for men too. I can only just speak from the woman's experience.
Yeah, I'll share my personal experience here is that, funnily enough, I find that if my kids are asking me for advice,
Hmm.
then it's very well accepted. But if
Yeah.
I'm giving them unsolicited advice at work, they have to listen. I'm the boss.
Yeah.
But at home, it's not exactly like that. And it's interesting to see because if they ask, then they're asking and then they're curious and they're open. But if they're
That's
closed
good.
and I'm trying to like shove it in, that never works.
Yeah,
Um,
that's good advice.
m- m-
That's really good
maybe
advice.
that
I'll write that down.
maybe that's true also in in at work also. They're closed. They're just not illustrating that either. So who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly right.
Maybe we'll pivot for a moment just to talk a little bit about some of the innovation in the technology space.
Sure.
Are
Love to.
there any areas that have been particularly exciting that Daisy is getting involved in now that are you find fun?
Yeah, there's so much fun stuff here. Lighting is an area that's growing rapidly and really, been disruptive. And again, I think what's exciting there is the potential in terms of, the design of a home and the experience in a home. There's literal like physical effects that the right lighting and working with what's happening with the outdoor lighting and the indoor lighting can actually improve how you feel. It can help you sleep better. It can help you recover from jet lag. Not to mention, it makes the home, more beautiful. So I think now there's a lot of education we need to do about that. Like I said, between like consumers, but also, interior designers. But there's, wonderful vendors and partners that we have there. So working with those, folks has been terrific, and you can go out and experience those things and see what they're like. So I think lighting is something. Of course, there's still, I feel like every, month there's a bigger TV that works better than it did before.
Always, yeah.
These frame TVs that look like art in the home and are just stunning and make your living room not look just like I said, a man cave. And every time I have friends come over who see ours, they go out and buy one. So I am now becoming my own showroom.
Wow,
But
that's
the
so cool.
sizes of TVs, video walls are incredible,
Yeah,
and the ability to like this office that I'm sitting in on the weekends, it turns into like a little home theater,
neat.
because we've put in some nice speakers. We have a bigger screen, and it makes you feel like you're, at the movies, and you're all kind of cuddled up in the comfort of your own home, which is really nice. So on the security side, cameras and companies like alarm.com are incorporating AI so that there's really tremendous things that you can do to help keep your home and family safer. And then I talked about motorized shades. It sounds so silly, but to be able to have shades go up to wake my kids up and keep them down on the weekends to help them stay asleep, or get my teenager up if I want to make sure he gets up for whatever he needs to do. And then also kind of coordinating with your lighting to have that all come together is, I think, really great. But again, I'm speaking from the experience of someone who, loves a good speaker and a good sound system, but kind of gets more blown away with these convenient luxuries of everyday life that I didn't know about until I got into this space.
It's pretty cool to be able to take some of these. what you said are potentially luxurious and bring them into the, you know, down into the mainstream. I think that that's, if that's a value proposition that Daisy is looking to achieve, that sounds like not only is the market going to expand, but people will experience a better quality of life and potentially even greater health.
Yeah, I mean, I think so all those innovations and technologies and products are out there. They've always been out there. There's way more there than I probably even know about. Those companies are innovating, prices are coming down, and then new products and technologies are coming up, coming into the marketplace. The innovation and the differentiator from our perspective is this idea of kind of helping with the friction that exists with the customer. I don't think any customer is really happy with their home technology always working all the time. They would love it if someone would come by every couple months and just make sure everything's working properly, explain something that they thought they understood. Recently I switched phones, and so all of my apps kind of needed to be reset up, which caused some glitches. Just things like that, that you kind of are like, well, I don't really want to call this guy who cost, hundreds of thousands of dollars to set it all up initially. But if they're gonna come by anyway, then they can kind of smooth all
Oh,
that out, and in the process, learning about what else is available. So the only way we could do that here was by building out, systems and technology that had never really existed before for the industry. So a CRM where we can monitor what's happening with all of our customers, being able to monitor from away from the home, to be able to tap into the system and see how folks' Wi-Fi is performing and get ahead of problems before they occur. Being able to dispatch a truck, and not really worry about, is the guy gonna pay or not pay? We have those systems kind of all set up. For us, those are kind of where it's not as sexy innovations as a security camera that talks to a burglar and says, "You in the black sweatshirt, get out of the house." But for us, that is, and there's so much more, that we're building and that we can create and help for people, and so we're excited about that.
Hagan, we spoke a little bit about business and family. Are there any other passion projects that you're involved in that you'd like to highlight or speak about?
I don't really have time for a lot of other passion projects.
Me neither.
We, there's a lot more that as we become a billion-dollar company in the next few years, we know that we have um, ways in which we all need to give back to our communities. And so that's something that we're passionate about and working on, whether it's technology to schools or, helping libraries make sure that they've got the technology they need. Those types of things, are kind of in the back of our minds. Um, but yeah, I think just managing, getting this company, getting all the people in our company what they need. That's really what I'm passionate about. Listening to customers and coming up with creative branding and marketing. I'm passionate about that. We're doing a really exciting pilot in Northern California right now. We're spending almost $1 million, playing around with digital marketing, billboards. We've done an ambassador tour of a home. So no one's ever really thought about marketing to a consumer before. These companies, like I said, tend to have more demand than they keep up with, but it's referral based. And so the idea here is, get the word out about what we do and how we can help people. But then, yeah, otherwise on the weekends, and I'm just driving kids around to games, and I'm sure in a couple years I'll miss these days, and then I'll get working on some more personal projects.
Fun things, fun things. As a final word for our listeners, what if people want to connect with you or with Daisy? How should they reach out?
Oh, thank you. Daisyco.com.
Mhm.
We have a website with different links that you can reach out to us. I'm at Hagan at daisyco.com, and we're also on LinkedIn, trying to be an influencer like you, posting things. So you can usually find us and DM us there. And then we've got some social media up on Instagram and those types of things too. So, but yeah, anyone can just reach out to me directly. I'd love that.
That's great. Thank you. And I appreciate all this. This has been incredibly insightful. I love learning about people who have had unique experiences. Certainly, the learnings on how to think about building companies, both from bringing together similar companies throughout the country, as well as identifying a 40% brand that 40% of the
Yeah.
coffee drinkers don't like so heavily roasted coffee. I
Yeah.
resonate with that. I think that's amazing. Thank you for sharing these
I know.
stories.
I know. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Of course, of course. I'm going to end today by thanking KJ Technology. Ventures and Visionaries is grateful to be sponsored by KJ Technology. KJ Technology sits at the intersection of business and technology by providing technology advisory services such as aligning business goals and technology initiatives. Their plans create coherence between business people and the tech teams supporting them. They provide cybersecurity oversight and proactive solution design to solve your real world challenges. For a complimentary consultation, please email info@kjtechnology.com. Thank you so much and have a great day.